Thank you, Ivo, and thank you to the entire Chicago Council. Has been an honor to be part of this class and be part of this wonderful institution. The Chicago Council has been doing cutting-edge work on energy. There's an energy revolution going on in the world, and we decided to look at a region that the Chicago Council had not covered yet. And it really was our intention and our wish to deliver good news to you tonight, to highlight a policy area where developments were trending in the right direction and that U.S. intervention can make a difference. So it may seem strange for people that we chose the Eastern Mediterranean, because after all, on the northern edge of the sea, there's a Eurozone crisis and Euroscepticism that may be threatening not only European integration, but the EU itself. On the southern edge of the sea, there's a Syrian civil war, the advance of the Islamic State, and volatility in countries like Egypt and Turkey that are reshaping the Middle East in a not so positive way. But I assure you there is good news. The energy finds in the Eastern Mediterranean over the last decade, primarily in the exclusive economic zones of Israel and Cyprus, are giving us a glimpse into a brighter future for the region. Our project examines how these energy resources can take what has been a region in just purely geographic terms and turn it into a true political and economic region. We examine in the report, so download it and read it, how natural gas and potentially oil can transform Israel and Cyprus from energy-dependent states to energy-independent and exporting states, can stabilize the economies and the regimes of Jordan and Egypt, and can literally power peace processes. So how much is at stake? In short, a lot. Admittedly, a relative term. And no, neither Israel nor Cyprus nor anybody else in the Eastern Mediterranean is going to turn into Kuwait. And the Eastern Mediterranean is not going to supplant Russia or Russian supplies to Europe. But while these resources may be modest in a global sense, they're transformative in a regional sense. Take Israel, energy-dependent state that has been dependent, in fact, on sometimes hostile neighbors. Just with what it already has confirmed, it will be energy independent for generations. Cyprus, equally energy dependent and hobbled by the fact that it relies on oil for electricity, will similarly become energy and naturally gas independent, and with its single confirmed find, will not only be able to make the transition from oil to natural gas, it will be natural gas independent for a generation and still be able to export 90% of its finds. So where is this going? If I say it's not going to make a difference to Europe, where is it going? First, Jordan. Jordan has been reliant, again, on neighbors. Unfortunately, has had an unstable supply from Egypt, an unreliable supply. And recently, with U.S. intervention, has been able to cut a deal for Israeli gas. This will replace the Egyptian supply that it cannot rely on, and then some. Then there's Egypt itself. Egypt has gone from an energy exporting state to a state with rolling blackouts and dormant but modern liquefied natural gas facilities. Now it has deals with Cyprus, maybe one day with Israel, even though it can't, for political reasons, have direct deals with Israel now. And Egypt will be stabilized. These economic benefits are obvious. And the numbers laid out in our report are fluid because we're very much at the early end. We're still in what the State Department calls an age of exploration. And the age of exploitation may be starting, but just on phase one. Read those numbers, and I promise you a year from now somebody can do the same report, and they'll be higher. They will always be trending upwards. But there are other benefits, geopolitical benefits, and the region is already realizing them. And it's giving us a glimpse of how this region can come together. Take, for example, the relationship we already talked about, Jordan and Egypt being stabilized. And they are frontline states in the war or in the battle against the Islamic State, and leaving these economies unstable or energy dependent can lead to no good result. So getting them this energy is important in a strategy. Since we're talking about what is the strategy on the Islamic State, stabilizing these frontline states is huge. There's also the relationship between Cyprus and Israel. For their first 50 years of coexistence, to say that the relationship wasn't warm or close may be an understatement, but they are working together on energy. The major natural gas finds in the Eastern Mediterranean are being developed by Houston's Noble Energy and Israel's Delek, which own both the major fields in Israel and the major field in Cyprus. This energy cooperation has turned into tourist cooperation, agriculture, healthcare, first ever visits by the Israeli Prime Minister to Cyprus and the Cypriot President to Israel, and a second visit last week. Anti-terrorism cooperation, the first ever conviction of Hezbollah as a terrorist group happened in Cyprus, and defense cooperation. Moreover, Cyprus's historic relation with Arab states and Israel's historic ties, albeit a little frayed right now with Turkey, allows each state to play a little bit of an honest broker role with the other in their major geopolitical challenges. So we see this playing out, for example, in the case between Israel and Lebanon. They have a disputed maritime boundary, and Cyprus is mediating that. And that may lead to Lebanon playing a role in Eastern Mediterranean energy. When I said it may power the peace process, we have the two longest standing peace processes before the United Nations Security Council are in Eastern Mediterranean, Israeli-Arab peace and Cyprus. And gas has become a key incentive in both processes. Renewed negotiations for Cyprus's reunification have just started. It's no accident, because people are afraid they may not be able to realize the benefits of natural gas. Our report also lays out the energy factor in Israeli-Palestinian negotiations in the Gaza Marine field. So why should the U.S. be involved here? Aren't we too spread too thin? Isn't this something maybe Europe or somebody else should be handling? First of all, we are involved. The peace processes, relations with Egypt, relations with Israel, relations with Jordan is something the U.S. is already taking a lead on. Probably the diplomat of any country that has spent more time in the region and has the greatest expertise is the U.S.'s, the State Department's lead on energy diplomacy, Amos Hochstein, who he actually brokered the deal between Jordan and Israel because they couldn't do it directly, so he came up with a great idea of it's a direct Noble Jordan deal. Secondly, with the rebalance to Asia, a key U.S. priority, we can't rebalance and leave greater instability behind. This gas can help stabilize a region and allow the U.S. to spend more time in Asia. Finally, nobody knows more about energy. Every situation we have, South China Sea, Canada, if you look everywhere Amos goes, Canada, China, Ukraine, Africa, we're dealing with energy diplomacy, matters of the international law of the sea everywhere. And we can bring a tremendous amount of experience in technical assistance and in legal precedent. So our report urges the U.S. to pursue three policies with regard to Middle Eastern or Eastern Mediterranean energy. First, provide technical and perhaps even financial assistance. There are regulatory issues in Israel. There are exploratory issues in Cyprus. And these are young states when it comes to exploring for energy or dealing with an energy industry. Having a state as experienced in the U.S. in several contexts can help them. Second, the U.S. can help plan and secure an Eastern Mediterranean infrastructure, not a bilateral or a trilateral infrastructure, but a true regional infrastructure. And to date, it is the U.S. that has urged key stakeholders successfully to keep that open, not to just make bilateral agreements. And then help form an institution. This is a key step that can lead to regional integration. And even if that's just an institution that helps to deal with environmental emergencies, that'll be perfect. Just over a year ago, Cypriot Foreign Minister Kasoulides addressed the Chicago Council, and he said that natural gas in the Eastern Mediterranean can be the coal and steel of the 21st century. Just as those sources of energy helped kick off European integration and prevent war in a continent that had been at war for nearly a century, it can bring peace to the Eastern Mediterranean. Natural gas has the potential to do the same in the Eastern Mediterranean. We should not lose the opportunity to shape such a future. Thank you.